meet the starters for both teams, starting first with our visitors, the Fort Hays State Tigers. Led by the captain, number 9, Blake Arndt. In goal, number 1, Kieran Brown. Number 4, Chris Rios Cruz. Number 5, Haruya Iwasaki. Number 8, Ethan Dowd. Number 11, Inigo Jimenez. Number 12, Taj Walsh. Number 16, Callum Frogson. Number 17, Sean Thompson. Number 18, Jackson Elgis. And number 23, Tyler Lockhart. Head coach for Fort Hays State is Jerry Cleary. And now the starting lineup for your Ouachita Tigers. Led by the captain, number 4, Joseph Latier. In goal, number 13, Dylan Stahl. Number 2, a senior from Bryant, Arkansas, Henry Terry. A freshman from Brisbane, Australia, number 6, Baden Pond. A senior from Wiley, Texas, number 10, David Stankovic. A junior from Wichita Falls, Texas, number 11, Hagan Sanchez. A junior from Cedar Hill, Texas, number 19, Evan Jordan. A freshman from Little Rock, Arkansas, number 25, Christian Baker. A freshman from Caracas, Venezuela, number 30, Daniel Marcano. A freshman from Rowlett, Texas, number 33, CJ Washington. And a junior from Richardson, Texas, number 41, Bobby Boone. Head coach for Ouachita is Chris Lawson. Fans, at this time, we ask that you please rise to honor America and those who serve it for the playing of our national anthem.
Welcome back, friends and family of Ouachita Soccer. We're here with another match. Today we have a Tiger match-off. We have the Fort Hays State Tigers versus the Ouachita Baptist Tigers. It's a beautiful day outside. It's about 78 degrees with an 8-mile-per-hour wind. It's going to be a wonderful game. We have a... The Fort Hays Tigers are currently the conference leaders, their record being 7-3-3. Ouachita is trailing in the conference at the moment with 1-10-2, so it'll be an interesting game. Both teams coming off a loss, however. Last week, the Fort Hays State Tigers played Newman and lost 0-1. Ouachita lost to Harding last week 0-3. Both teams set to try to get their winning streak back and going. Two key players to watch for today will be number 9 from Fort Hays State. It's going to be Blake Arndt. Blake is leading the team in goals this year. For Ouachita, it's going to be Evan Jordan, number 19. Now, both Jordan and Arndt are in the top 10 in goals and in shots this year, so it'll be interesting to see them go head to head. Arndt last year was the one of the GAC Players of the Year 2 years ago. So we get this match ready to go. Fort Hays State is going to start with the ball today as we get ready to kick things off. Ball works quickly up into Ouachita's territory. It's going to be a throw-in for Fort Hays quickly. There'll be number 18, Jackson Elgis, throwing it in. He throws it, gets it into the goal box. Ouachita try and clear it down the field. Does so successfully as it ends up back in Fort Hays territory. Chris Rio Cruz looking to pass. Working it up the far side of the field now. Works it back to the keeper. Keeper works it middle of the field. Goes out of bounds. It's going to be a Ouachita throw-in. There'll be number 30, Daniel McCarno, throwing it in. McCarno surveying a little bit. Throws it in. Fort Hays takes control and sends a through ball, stopped by number 4, Joseph Latier, for Ouachita. A little bit of back and forth between the two teams before Ouachita takes control of it at the midfield mark. Back with Fort Hays after a challenge. Again, two people to watch is Evan Jordan, number 19 for Ouachita, and Blake Arndt. And a lot of the same categories, they're at the top. In shots, Evan Jordan is 7th. Blake Arndt is 5th in the conference. And then shots on goal, that would be Arndt is 4th in the conference in that category, and Evan Jordan is 5th. So both players getting lots of shots and lots of shots on goals, playing well. Shots is something Ouachita has struggled in this far in the season. They're almost outshot every match about 3-1. They have 88 shots through the first 13 games this year. However, we're seeing their opponents shoot about 303 through 13 games. Noticeable change for Ouachita is that Armani Atalano has started most of the games, but Dylan Stahl is in at keeper today. Ouachita tries to cross it. Doesn't quite get it. A little bit of challenge. Ref doesn't like it. It's going to be a Fort Hays free kick from about midfield. It's number 4, Chris Rios Cruz, looking to pass it. We'll see if he can get it to Arndt, who's lined up right outside the goal box. Sets it up nicely. Ouachita gets their head on it. Back and forth. Ball stays in the air. Then we're going to have a stoppage. Comes back. It's going to be a Ouachita kick. Plays it up quickly to number 25, Christian Baker. Washita try and make something happen. When Washita does shoot, they're getting the ball into the back of the goal about 10% of the time, which is a great number. Half of their shots end up on target. However, just not having enough of the looks throughout this season this far. David Stankovic tries to apply some pressure. For Fort Hays, sends a through ball. Christian Baker, a little bit of back and forth to try to gain control. It's going to end up with Washita. Trying on a fast break to make something happen. Looking around, that's number 10, David Stankovic. Good dribbling by him. Good pass through Fort Hays' legs. Ends up back with Christian Baker, who sends a through ball up the left side, intended for Eben. It'll end up with him as he crosses the ball to the middle. Goes off of the head of a Washita player, ends up near the goal, but looks like that was maybe more of a deflection than a shot. Working the ball up the near side of the field. That one ends up with number 23, Tyler Lockhart. Lockhart playing extremely well through this season. Washita Hagen Sanchez with a beautiful takeaway. Ends up with Eben Jordan. A little bit of back and forth. It looks like it's going to be called out on Washita. That's going to be a corner kick for Fort Hays. This will be their 65th of the season. Going to try to set something up here. Quick run up, but Washita gets a piece of it. Good cross of the ball. Doesn't make anything happen though. Washita just tries to clear it down the field. Ball still up in the air. No Terry try and come down with it. We have a stoppage of play. It's going to go to Washita. Looks like it was offsides off of Fort Hays State. Dylan Stahl puts it back into play. Ends up with Christian Baker, who sends it deep for Jordan. Jordan ends up with it. A little bit of back and forth scuffle before Fort Hays comes back away with it. Trying to work it up the side. Through ball goes a little far. It's going to be a Washita throw in. Coming into this game, Fort Hays can score 2. They've at least tied every game they've scored 2 in. And with 3 or more, they've definitively won. So Fort Hays looking to get a couple goals in the net here early on. Good challenge by Washita, and they clear it down the field to reset the play. Stankovic trying to make it down there, still applying pressure. Keeper for Fort Hays sends it out of bounds. It's Kieran Brown in goal. He's playing very well this year. 58 saves through 13 games. Got a little bit of a back and forth on the field. Ends up in the far side as Jordan tracks it down before it goes out of bounds. Dribbling skills, but ends up with the defender back and forth. It's going to be a foul on Jordan. It's going to be number 5 taking that kick. Surveying the field. Ends up down the field. Washita clears it out of bounds. It's going to be a throw-in for Fort Hays State. This time Jackson Elgis throwing it in. He's going to survey, sends it deep, all the way into the goal box, off the head of Fort Hays State before it ends up back in the corner. Washita's Christian Baker is going to send it deep, trying to work it out of his own territory. Dillon comes away with it. Coming into this game, Dylan Stahl has 11 saves through his 2 starts at goalkeeper. He has about a 70% stop rate. Good hands, safe hands from Stahl. It's going to give him another save on the season with his 3rd start. Noah Terry working it up quickly. Excuse me, that's Hagen Sanchez working it up. It's going to be a stop. It's going to be Sean Thompson from Fort Hays fouls Washita number 30, Daniel McCarno. Joseph Latier kicks it deep. Both teams trying to come away with possession. Ends up back with Christian Baker, who sends it to the far sideline. Good effort by Stankovic, but does end out of bounds. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Arndt isn't the only one on Fort Hays' team who's had quite a year. Cullum Frogson has also had quite a year. He's got 4 goals on the year, and Tyler Lockhart also has 4. These 2 guys coming in at 7th and 8th in the conference in scoring this year. Frogson's averaging about 50% of his shots end up on goal. Same for Lockhart. Ball ends up back with Christian Baker. He sends a through ball. Jordan tracks it down. This one's going to end up back with Noah Terry, who passes it off. Jordan applying some pressure before the ball resets. This ball ends up with Walsh from Fort Hays. Sends a through ball. Washita ends up with it. Good challenge. Christian Baker resets it back to Stahl. Stahl gets rid of it. Playing a little bit of keep away in their own third of the field. Sanchez looking to make something happen. It's going to work the near sideline. Washita had 2 people applying pressure there. Ends up deflecting off of one of them. It's going to be Elgis throwing it in. stop the play after an offsides by Fort Hayes. It's going to end up back with the keeper, Dylan Stahl. Dylan gets it off quickly to Christian Baker. Baker working it up the near sideline, dribbling. He sends it through. No, Terry ends up with it. Missed touch by Evan Jordan. Fort Hayes now applying pressure, sends a through ball to Arndt, who sends it, oh, so close. Just off target to the left. Great effort by Arndt. Worked through defense. It was just him and the goalie there at the end. Just missed. Stahl in good position, applying some pressure to Arndt. Stahl now surveys, kicks it down the field. Shot ends up over the head. It's going to be another goal kick for Washita. A little bit back and forth around midfield before Fort Hayes comes away with it. Ends up back with Arndt once again. Works it up the left side. Shoots deflected off of number 4. Joseph Latier for Washita did an incredible job stopping. It's going to end up being a corner kick on the far corner from Fort Hayes State. They'll try to set something up here. Send it. Evan Jordan gets his head on it. Try to work it out of there. It's going to be a throw in for Fort Hayes State. Once again, Elgis throwing it in. Throws it deep. Arndt gets his head on it. It's going to be shot a little off target, so Stahl is going to throw it in. But before so, conducts traffic. Looking around. He's going to boot it deep. With an absolute missile downfield. It ends up all the way in the other team's goal box before their keeper picks it up. It's Brown in the goal for Fort Hayes State. Ball ends up out of bounds for Washita throw in, but ends up in the possession of Fort Hayes State. Jordan applying pressure, seeing if they can't make Fort Hayes make a mistake. Middle of the field, working it up quickly. This is a big game for Fort Hayes State. They're only up half a game right now, ahead of Northeastern. Need to maintain that lead, but again, coming off that loss a week ago. Ball ends up out of bounds. Going to end up back with the keeper here. Fort Hayes much better at home, undefeated at home, 2-3 on the road. Trying to improve that record a little bit here. Elgis throws it in. Ball ends up with Iwasaki. Jordan applying pressure is going to end up in Washita's possession as he tries to cross it. Looks like it went off of his hand, maybe. It's going to be a washed-off free kick. Referee making sure the ball ends up where it needs to go. Christian Baker looks like he's going to take the kick. See if they can set something up. Most of Washita's players lined up on the far side of the goal box. Baker sends a nice ball through off the head of Noah Terry, ends up to the right of the goal. It's going to be a goal kick for Fort Hays. Brown getting the ball set before he looks up, looks around to see who's open. Sends it deep to half field. Fort Hays works it to the far side of the field. Ends up back with Iwasaki, looking to pass. Rios Cruz passes it, but it gets intercepted. Looks like Stankovic. Looks like it ended up out of bounds. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Noah Terry telling his teammates where to go. Latier passes it back. Stahl kicks it deep. Back and forth with the ball before Elgas moves it up. Edmund Jordan gets a piece of it, trying to keep it out of their own side before it goes out of bounds. Looks like it deflected off of Elgas, so Washita throws it in. Noah Terry tries to get a piece of it. Excuse me, Henry Terry. Ball ends up out of bounds. Sanchez is going to throw it in. Jordan heads it up the field. Ends up back with him, does it again. Third time's the charm. He gains control of it. Ends up out of bounds. First of all, we have some substitutes. Not yet. Theo Bennett's coming into the game, as well as Hoshin. It's going to be a throw-in for Fort Hays. Minutes left to play in the half. Both teams have had a couple of shots on goal. Terry working the ball up. Both teams have done better in the second half of games through this season. Ball ends up out of bounds. It's going to go to Fort Hays State to throw it in. Again, both teams do better in the second half. Fort Hays in 12 of their 26 goals in the first half. 70 shots in the first half of their games thus far through this year. 89 through the back half. Ouachita trying to set something up. Ends up out of bounds, but it's going to be a corner kick for the Ouachita Tigers. This will be their first of the game. Coming from the near side corner. Looks like it's going to be Baden Pond taking that corner kick. Bobby Boone trying to help him out, coming to the near side. Pond sends it deep. Ends up out of bounds. It will be a Ouachita throw-in after the header from Fort Hays State. James Jolly coming into the game, as well as Alfonso Gonzalez Gomez for the Ouachita Tigers. See if fresh legs do anything for Ouachita here. Stankovic throws it in deep. Ends up back with Bobby Boone. Sends a through ball. May Sanchez gain a piece of it. Stankovic. It's a little too physical for the referee. Gives the ball to Fort Hays State. Just under 19 minutes left to play here in the first half. Frogson sets the ball down for Brown, who's going to take the free kick. Brown's having an incredible year this year, only allowing a little over 1 goal a game. Through his 13 starts, is doing really well. Only allowed 14 on the season, but has saved 58. Jordan sends a through ball. Stankovic and Terry both applying pressure, trying to take the ball back or force a mistake. Ball ends up back with Brown as he looks to reset the play. Elgas works through the pressure. Arndt sends it to the far side. Ends up deflecting out of bounds, so Elgas is going to have yet another throw in from the near side. Elgas throws it in. Ends up going out of bounds. There's a little bit of scuffle. We have a player down. Looks like it's Arndt, slow to get up. Having a little bit of discussion with the referee. Stahl is going to kick it in. Went off of Fort Hays the end of that last play. Stahl sends it deep. Ends up back with Fort Hays, working it up the side. Sanchez applying pressure, tries to cross it. Arndt just misses it, doesn't get clean contact with it. Ends up in the safe hands of Stahl, who sends it deep, trying to flip the field quickly. Closest to Terry, but Fort Hays gets a piece of it. Now Ouachita applying pressure, trying to get back out of their own territory. Ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a Ouachita throw-in. Christian Baker there applying some good pressure. Hagen Sanchez going to throw it in once again for Washita, surveying the field. Throws it in, ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Sanchez sends a skyrocket through. Christian Baker kicks it out of bounds. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Both teams playing excellent defense through the last couple weeks. One notable player on Fort Hays' team is Callum Frogson. He was Defender of the Week 2 weeks ago, clearly playing well this season. Stahl sends it up quickly, trying to make something happen before Fort Hays can get set. Doesn't work as Elgas with a beautiful steal sends a through ball. Christian Baker sliding to get it out of there. Eben Jordan sliding to get it out of there. He takes control of the ball, working up the side. Washita upping the pace of the game here. Challenge back and forth. A lot of players ending up on the ground with a lot of slides. Referee's going to stop play and award the free kick to Fort Hays after a slide by Eben Jordan. Ethan Dode looking around. He's going to set the ball down. This is going to be Inigo Jimenez looking to kick it. Eben Jordan and Terry setting up to block his shot. Stahl in his own goal. Kicks it deep, got some good curve on it. Ends up out of the goal box with Eben Jordan tracking it down. He sends a through ball down the far sideline. Stankovic trying to come up with it. Ends up back in the possession of Fort Hays. Lawler sends a through ball. Close but no cigar. Ends up back with Stahl. He's going to look around to get rid of the ball. Once again, just absolutely boots it to the other end of the field. This one ends up out of bounds off of a header from Fort Hays, so it's going to be Sanchez throwing it in for Washita. He surveys the field. Sends it deep. Elgas sending it down the field. It's going to end up out of bounds for Washita throw-in. Fort Hays, again, coming off that loss. Surprisingly, it was to Newman last week. Newman is last in the league at the moment. Interesting fact, Washita's only win comes against Newman. Both teams have played Newman on the road. This is Washita and Fort Hays' second match of the season. First one ended 4-0 in favor of the Fort Hays Tigers. It's going to be stop of play after Christian Baker had a little bit too much contact for the referee's liking. It's going to set up a Fort Hays free kick. Terry and McCarno this time standing in the way of the kick. Stahl getting ready to defend. Ball ends up. He punches it out of there. Fort Hays still in possession though, gonna try to capitalize here. It's number 11, Jimenez for Fort Hays State, who took that shot. Stahl sends it, throws it deep down the field. Sanchez trying to hit Stankovic, but kicks it a little far. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Christian Baker sends it out of play. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in once again. Fort Hays doing an incredible job keeping the ball out of their own side of the field, down in Ouachita's third, applying pressure. Ouachita struggled keeping the ball down on the other side of the field, playing good defense, but you have to think just with the amount of time the ball spins in their own third that eventually teams make something happen. Apply a lot of pressure to their own keeper. Atalanta through most of the season, Stahl here. Ouachita kicks out of bounds for a throw-in. Again, Ouachita capitalizes often when they get shots towards the goal. About 10% end up at the back of the net, about 50% end up on target. Ouachita trying to make something happen here, ends up on the far side of the field, too far for James Jolly to track down, so it's going to be a Fort Hays State throw-in. 8:20 left to play in the first half. Ball goes back and forth, both teams wrestling for possession. Ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a Ouachita throw-in this time. Looks like it was a foul there. Latier sends it deep. Bobby Boone working it up to Evan Jordan. Jordan passes it back. A little bit of contact there. Evan Jordan comes away with it, sends it deep. Oh, just a little too high. Was aiming for that top end in the right side, just barely off target. Great shot by Evan Jordan. Jordan, Terry, and Sanchez all coming out of play. Looks like 6 subs coming in for Ouachita, getting fresh legs on the field with 7 minutes left to play. Stankovic also coming on. Score still tied, 0-0. Fort Hays going to try to make something happen here in the back end of the half. Ball ends up out of bounds though. It's going to be a Ouachita throw-in. This time from Braden Hall. Ooh. Ends up in the goal. We have a player down on the play though. We'll see if it counts. Looks like number 13 for Fort Hays State was offsides. That's a Ayala. But number 8 is down on the field. That's Dud holding his side. He had a little bit of contact with a Ouachita player. Slow to get up, but it looks like he's going to be able to walk it off himself. The offsides results in a Washita goal kick. Good setup had it not been for the offsides by Fort Hays State. First ball to end up in the back of the net. Ball ends up out of bounds off of number 17, Gonzalez Gomez for Washita. Christian Baker making sure the ball does not end up back with Fort Hays State. So it's going to be a Dylan Stahl goal kick. .540 left to play. Both teams looking to capitalize here at the end of the half. Again, both teams better in the second half by significant margins. Number 8 once again takes a shot, stopped by Stahl. Good safe hands with him. Fort Hays applying some pressure here late. Seeing if they can challenge Stahl to make a mistake. Referee is going to award a free kick to Washita after a little push stopped the play there. Christian Baker looks like he's going to be the one to take it. Washita's players lining up, trying to take a late lead in the first half. Good header, ends up just out of reach. Still trying to make something happen. For James Jolly gets a piece of it. Jolly sends it out of bounds. But looks like it deflected, so it's going to be a Washita throw-in. Washita now deep in Fort Hays territory. 4 minutes left to play. See if they can make something happen. Joseph Latier heads it out of bounds. Fort Hays playing aggressively with 3:45 left to play in the first half, trying to make a lead change happen. Now resetting it, Washita still applying pressure. Brown pretty far out of his own goal box. Ends up back. Washita trying to get out of their own territory by their challenges. Washita, good steal. Grant Isbell gets his head on it, tries to get it out. Ball ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. Fort Hays, good cross to the middle, ends up with Stahl though. Isbell taking off. Ends up with the ball, ends up out of bounds, will be off of Fort Hays State. This will be number 17, Gonzalez Gomez throwing it in. Washita applying pressure. Too much contact. It's going to go towards Fort Hays. Working into the middle of the field. That's Iwasaki. Fort Hays, a minute 43 left to make something happen with their time in Washita's territory. Sends a through ball. Elgas is going to get a piece of it. Puts it back to the middle. Number 14 takes a shot at it. No good. Well, back and forth. Still applying pressure. Fort Hays resets the ball. Jimenez sends it up. Washita clears the ball deep. Ends up over the heads of the fans. Gonna be a Fort Hays throw in from Washita's third. Jimenez throws it in and kicks it to the middle after getting a pass. Christian Baker sends it deep. Grant Isbell takes a piece of it. Deflects off of Fort Hays. Gonna be a Washita throw in. They've got 45 seconds left to make something happen. Gonna be a throw in from midfield. 30 seconds left. Washita may be happy to run the timeout here. Yeah, free kick for Washita after too much contact. Kicks it. Little far. 15 seconds left to play. Keeps it in bounds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Time expiring. They're going to have a free kick, but not in time for... Does end up in the goal, but I think we were out of time before half, so we'll end the half 0-0. We'll be right back.
Wayne State Medical School has been my dream medical school since I was 5. Athletics are important, but so is service, so is research, so is becoming a better person, and we expect you to do well athletically, but don't forget the reason you're here, which is to give back to your community and to get good grades.
On my team, I thrive to work as hard as I can. I mean, whatever you do on the field, there's a positive correlation to whatever else you do, be it personal relationships, homework, the way you carry yourself. I've changed since I got to King University. It's really helped me to develop as a leader. I think it's honestly the best thing that's ever happened.
I'm Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic.
Hey, this is Alex Pruitt with Sports Illustrated Magazine.
This is Kevin Kugler of Westwood One.
Hi, everybody. It's Pete Pranica of the Memphis Grizzlies and Fox Sports Southeast.
This is Danielle Musselman.
This is Kyle Peterson with ESPN.
This is Tom Hart of ESPN and the SEC Network. Thanks for tuning in to the Washita Sports Digital Network.
In NCAA Division II, student athletes leave a lasting impression on their communities. That's because Division II student athletes want to make a difference and truly be part of their surrounding communities. Through community engagement, thousands of student athletes from various backgrounds interact with community members who view them as role models. This interaction leaves a positive and perhaps even life-changing impression on all those involved. In Division II, we rise to the opportunity and make community engagement ours.
Received by White. Miscommunication, and Tigers win! And they're going to send around Allen. Is it going to be an inside to Parker? Yes, it is!
Court to the three-point line. Thornton underneath to Van Zandt. Layup at the buzzer. It's good. It's good. Washington storms the court.
Welcome back to the second half of the Tiger match-off. We have the OBU Tigers versus the Fort Hays State Tigers. Washita is going to start off with the ball. It's going to be Henry Terry taking the first kick. And we're underway of the second half. So I mentioned both teams do significantly better in the second half. More goals scored, more shots on goals for both teams. So we'll have an exciting half here ahead of us. Arndt with a good header. Fort Hays quick to get out in front. It's number 13, Ayala. Sends across. Christian Baker ends up with it. Ayala sends a ball, just to the right there. Good play by Fort Hays to start off the second half. Just a couple numbers for Fort Hays State. In the first half, they had 70 shots to their 89 in the second half of games this far. Had 37 compared to 27 corners in the second half. They've had 14 goals in the second half compared to 12 in the first. So clearly a better second half team. Washita, same story though. 3 goals in the first half of their games, 5 in the second. Ends up out of bounds is going to be a Fort Hays State corner kick. Send it to the middle before Washita gets a foot on it. Ball ends up down the field. Fort Hays, again, keeping in Washita's territory. Tries to cross it, ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a goal kick for Dylan Stahl. Not his first of the day, and certainly won't be his last. Stahl looking to send it deep. This kid definitely has a leg. Can get it all the way across the field. Evan Jordan trying to track the ball down, ends up out of bounds, so Elgas for Fort Hays will throw it in. Terry kicks it out of bounds. Excuse me, that's Sanchez, it looks like. Referee's waiting for a ball to throw it in. Elkas jogging down the field with one. Evan Jordan gets his head off of it, off the throw-in. Back and forth before it's sent down the field. Washita making sure it doesn't spend too much time in their own half of the field. Evan Jordan works it to Terry, who passes it back. He's going to flip the field as Stankovic gets it. Excuse me, that's number 30 for Washita. That's Daniel Macarno. Back and forth. Washita player ends up on the ground. It's going to be a free kick from about midfield. Quickly take it. Get it to Macarno. Try to set it up. Fort Hays able to clear it. It's Latier going up against Fort Hays, trying to keep it out of their own territory. Free kick for Rios Cruz from Fort Hays State. He's looking to make something happen. First 5 minutes of the second half here. Fort Hays lines up and then begins to move. Good ball. Ends up off the head. Stankovic going for it. Too much contact by Fort Hays State. End up with a free kick for Washita. Stankovic, I think, wanted a card there, but the referee doesn't hand one out. This one ends up with Macarno. Back and forth. Stankovic again ends up on the ground. slow to get up. Ball ends up out of bounds, off the foot of Bobby Boone. Stankovic still slow to get up. We'll see if he's doing okay. He's now jogging. Looks like he's going to be okay. Throw in. Bobby Boone is able to get rid of it, not for long, before it ends up over back with Elgis. Eben Jordan applying pressure, trying to steal the ball. Elgis back with it on the right side. Arndt sets it back. Or shot on goal, but ends up in the hands of Stahl. He's going to look around to get rid of it. Elga's playing really well this game. In the season, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. It's clearly a vital part of Fort Hays State's offense. Playing good defense as well. Ball ends up a little too far for Ouachita to track down. It's going to be a Fort Hays State throw-in. Ouachita through the past 3 games hasn't scored once, looking to end that streak here today. Again, only 8 goals in their 13 games. So scoring would be huge. Done well, though, controlling Fort Hays' shots and goals. Coming into the game, Fort Hays nearly outshoots them 2-1. But again, they're playing well here today. Be a throw-in from Ouachita. It's been a busy week here at Ouachita. We just ended homecoming week and Tiger Tunes week. Sure, a lot of students are glad to have that behind them. Coming up on midterms. Fort Hays ends up with the ball. Eben Jordan quick to steal. A little bit of a tackle there by number 6 from Ouachita. That's Baden Pond. It's going to end up back with a Fort Hays free kick from the edge of midfield for Fort Hays. Fort Hays sends it a little long. Tries to cross it, ends up on the ground in front of Stahl before he's able to pick it back up. Good recovery. Wasn't able to scoop it up on the first go round. Stahl slow to get up there. Great effort play by Stahl. Gets it on the second try. Sanchez sends it down the field, but not before it's taken by Elgis. Ethan Dudd getting a piece of the action. Fort Hays able to cross it. Ouachita ends up with it. McCarno sends it down the field. Back and forth the ball goes. McCarno ends up with it. Slide tackle, but no good from Fort Hays. McCarno sends it up to Jordan. Ends up with Baden Pond. Again, a little bit of contact right in front of the referee, but he says to play on. Fort Hays looking to make something happen. Arndt sends a shot. Good stop by Dylan Stahl there. again, Arndt is the leader not only of shots but of goals for Fort Hays State. He's playing incredibly well this season. 33 coming into this game. He's added a pair during this game, taking his total up to 35. Washita working it up. Let's see, it's again Pond being a little aggressive. They're going to call it back for a free kick. Referee at the beginning gave the advantage, but then called it back. Iwasaki sends it deep. Looks like that one's going to be tracked down by Petropolis. Not before Macarno gets a piece of it. Stankovic working at the middle of the field. Works it up to Eben Jordan. Gonna send a through ball. Terry, a hold of it. Ends up back with Fort Hays State. Seen a lot of long balls here in the second half. Both teams sending it deep into the other team's territory before possession swaps and same thing happens. Fort Hays throws it in. 33 minutes left to play here in the second half. Both teams tied at 0. Applying pressure. Good dribbling to the middle of the field. Arndt trying to cross it there. Doesn't quite work out. Have a stoppage of play. See what happens. Ball is coming off. It looks like there might have been an offsides there at the end of that play. So it's going to end up back with Stahl for a goal kick. Both teams working their way back to the other end of the field. Good clear by Bobby Boone. Fort Hays quick to make it work it back up the field. Pond sends it, ends up off the face of number 3, Jose Avendano for Fort Hays. Stankovic ends up with it. Baden Pond sends it through. Trying to track it down is CJ Washington, but he's not able to get there. It ends up out of bounds for a Fort Hays throw-in. Excuse me, Fort Hays goal kick. A couple of fresh legs coming in for Washita, including James Jolly. Brown getting ready to kick it. Sends it deep. Goes over almost everybody's head. Dylan Stahl happy to have his own territory, but it hasn't happened yet. Deflected off of Washita, not advantageously. Bobby Boone's got it. Washita with a chance to make something happen here. Sends a through ball. Eben Jordan trying to track it down. He'll get to it in time. Trying to cross it. Getting it to the middle of the field. A little bit of a scuffle. Jordan still ends up with it. Sends it to the middle. Bobby Boone passing it over to Isbell. Washita a little confused on who was supposed to get possession of that ball there before Fort Hays able to clear it, not before Washita regains control. Good touch there by number 30, Macarno. Now it's Fort Hays on the fast break, trying to make something happen with Washita still trying to catch up. Elgas working to the middle of the field. Good pass. Looks like it was a shot by number 8, Ethan Dudd, but it goes a little far to the left. It's going to be a goal kick for Washita. Stahl's kept the goal clean thus far. Doing an excellent job. Only his 3rd start. Ends up out of bounds there, so Elgas is going to throw it in from about midfield. Dudd working the ball up to the right side of the field before Elgas crosses the ball. Header, oh, just a little bit high. Good header by number 13, Ayala. Trying to make something happen at the top of the goal. Stahl wanting to get the ball out of their own territory quickly. Ends up off of Fort Hays State for a Washita throw-in. It's going to be McCarno throwing it in. He takes a look. This goes to Isbell, but ends up out of bounds for a Fort Hays throw-in. So the ball's going the other way. So I have 28 minutes left to play. Washita sends it deep into the other side of the field. Grant Isbell ends up with it. Fort Hays throws it in. A little bit of too aggressive play there from Fort Hays will end with a Washita throw-in. Both teams going back and forth, throwing the ball in. One thing to note about Blake Arndt is he's 6'4", so he clearly has a height advantage out here. Stands about a head taller than anybody else. I'm sure that especially helps on corner kicks. Able to get his head on it, get it into the goal. Washita goal kick coming. Sends it on the ground to Bobby Boone. Ends up with Henry Terry before taken away by Fort Hays. Grant Isbell challenging, making it hard for Fort Hays Tigers. Fort Hays, oh, he put a little too much on that one. Ends up high to the right, over the back of the net. It's going to be a goal kick for Washita. Ayala playing well this season too. He's got 2 goals. There's some substitutions coming from Fort Hays side of the field. Christian Baker back to take the goal kick for Stahl. Sends it deep. Ball yet to touch the ground. There it goes. At midfield, nobody's kept possession of the ball here for long. Fort Hays now applying some pressure before it's stolen by Stankovic. He's working it up quickly. Looks like they're going to have a one-on-one matchup, 4-on-4 rather. Sanchez able to cross it. Oh, a little too far. Ends up back with Fort Hays State, and they're going to try and make something happen. Good slide by McCarno, but doesn't slow Fort Hays down. It's number 2 going for it. Avendano crosses the ball. trying to get it to Arndt, doesn't quite work out. End up back with him, crosses it again. This time, looks like Latier able to get it out. Mercano trying to get it out. It's up in the corner, number 3. So it ended up deflecting off of Washita. It's going to be a Fort Hays corner kick. Here the cross comes. Too far. Eben and Ilgus. Eben comes away with it. Jordan dribbling down the field, but they're going to stop play after Ilgus gets a little, falls down. Looks like Evan Jordan was a little too physical for the referee's liking there. Going for goal there, doesn't work out. It's going to be a corner kick for Fort Hays. I've had quite a few today, not able to capitalize thus far. Here it comes. Washita again keeping their own side clean. Good steal. Evan Jordan ends up with it, sends it to the middle of the field to James Jolly. Jolly sends it over to Isbell, but Elgus gets in the way. He's going to work it up to the side. That's number 2, Avendano. Avendano looking to make something happen. Dribbles it to the middle of the field. Passes it over to 16, who puts it on the ground. Doesn't work out for him. This time number 6, Bennett has it. Passes it to Elgus. This time with Arndt. Good stop by Stahl. Arndt looking at goal there, and Stahl able to stop it. Doesn't matter though, the ball, Arndt was offsides there. Good stop nonetheless by Dylan Stahl. Fort Hays applying some pressure to Washita's defense here. Just under halfway through the second quarter. Second half. Latier ends up with the ball, tries to send it between the legs of a Fort Hays State player, crosses it. Once again, Fort Hays into Washita's territory. Washita defending well. You have to wonder how long they can hold on for. Going to be another corner kick for Fort Hays State, but not before we have a sub. It's number 11 coming in. It's Jimenez for Fort Hays Tigers. And he'll be the one to take the corner. See if we can capitalize here. He sends it, beautiful corner right to the middle. Oh, what a stop by Washita. Goes over Stahl, but somebody, Christian Baker possibly, was behind him to head it out of the goal. Evan Jordan sends it to Isbell down the left side. Oh, just too far. It's going to end up out of bounds. Washita had the numbers there, not able to capitalize on their attack. And stop play, we've got a player down for Washita. It looks like that might be McCarno. Very slow to get up. Possibly just a cramp. Looks like he's stretching out. Stahl helping him. Good chance for both teams to get some water here. Marcano gets up. He's going to jog. See if he can loosen up a little bit. Minutes left to play. Again, 0-0. Both teams have had a couple chances. Maybe Fort Hays has had a couple more. But doesn't matter. Neither team able to capitalize thus far. No cards called this game so far. The beginning of the season, Washita has 28, Fort Hays has 27 yellow cards. Washita with a pair of red cards as well. So surprising we haven't seen one today. Washita trying to get out of their own side. Fort Hays trying to capitalize here. Looks like there was an offsides by Fort Hays State, so it's going to go to Washita. Both teams challenging for the ball. Fort Hays State comes away with it, looking to pass, goes to the far side. That's Ethan Dudd. Christian Baker happy to clear the ball out towards that sideline. Elgis will have a throw-in from deep in Washita's territory. Ball ends up in the air, head, but ends up in the arms of Dylan Stahl. He's done an incredible job today. I think that's his 5th or 6th save of the day. Ball is going to end up out of bounds off the foot of Bobby Boone. It's going to be a Fort Hays throw-in. This one ends up with Arndt off of his head, but too far, so it'll be a goal kick from Stahl. And have a stop for some substitutes. Stankovic coming back into the game, as well as several others. Baden Pond being one, Gonzalez Gomez being another, and Marshall Prather being the last one. Get some fresh legs as Sanchez jogs off as he was replaced. Christian Baker ends up with the ball, sends it through. Fort Hays trying to make something happen. Deflects off of Washita. Good clear by Washita. That's Latier trying to get it out of there. Excuse me, that is number 32, Braden Hall, getting it out of the goal box for Washita. Stankovic passes it back. Stahl working the ball up. Not before it's stolen by Fort Hays. It's number 8 trying to shoot Ethan Dudd, but it's a little high. So end up back as a goal kick. Fort Hays clearly has possession of the ball longer in this one, but Ouachita able to keep the goal clean, 0-0. Just over 15 minutes left to play in the second half. Both teams looking for a win here off of the loss last week. Good recovery, play through the fall. It's number 17 for Ouachita, Gonzalez Gomez. Ball ends up back behind the net. It's going to be a goal kick for Ouachita. He gets it off quickly to Christian Baker. Sends it deep up the field. See if Ouachita can make something happen here. Dribbling to the middle of the field. Just to the left, it's going to be a goal kick for Fort Hays State. It's their first shot in quite a bit of time. Kieran Brown kicks it deep. James Jolly gets a piece of it, working it back towards the middle of the field. Ends up out of bounds. A little too physical as Fort Hays, as a Ouachita player, ends up down on the ground. It's Marshall Prather on the ground. He's going to get up, get ready for a free kick. Ouachita working their way towards Fort Hays goal box. Seeing if they can make something happen. Ball ends up in the air. Fort ends up in possession of Ouachita. They send it through. Ouachita trying to make something happen. Doesn't work out as it ends up back in the hands of Brown. He's going to get ready to send it down the field. Puts it on the ground, sends it deep. Christian Baker sends it back down the other side of the field. Having a bit of a punting battle here. Back and forth it goes. Latier sends it to the middle of the field. It's time Fort Hays able to capitalize. Looking at goal, deflected off of Ouachita. That's a good defensive stop. Fort Hays able to keep possession, ends up off of Boone. It's going to be a throw-in for Elgas in Ouachita territory. Fort Hays averaging about 12 shots a game. Have quite a few in this one as well. Christian Baker clears the ball. Ouachita, on the other hand, averaging about 6 shots a game, so not nearly as many as Fort Hays. Ball ends up with Stahl. He's going to have a kick out of there, or throws it out. Ball ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a goal kick for Ouachita. Looks like we have a couple substitutions getting ready to come in. Marcano and Eben Jordan being 2 of them. The third being Brandon Avila. They're going to come in, get a fresh set of legs here with 11:30 to play in the second half. Referee wasn't quite ready for play to resume. Christian Baker's going to take the kick. Sends it deep, right to midfield. Both teams jostling for the ball. It ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a Washita throw-in. This time number 32, Braden Hall, will be throwing in. He's looking directly into the sun as it sets here at 5:30. Out of bounds off of Washita, so it's going to be good cross, a little far. Washita trying to track it down. Fort Hays trying to remain with possession. Evan Jordan puts in some effort to try to track down the ball, but ends up out of bounds for another Fort Hays throw-in. This one coming from about midfield. With lots of balls going out of bounds, Elgus has had plenty of shots to throw it in. This time Elgus kicks it, middle of the field, aren't going up for it. Gonna end up the edge of Washita's goal box. Good stop by Christian Baker to Stankovic. Washita working it up quickly. Here we go. Stankovic looking to make something happen. He's got a one-on-one. See if he can cross it off of the hands of Brown. Good stop by him. Washita able to apply some pressure at the end of this one. This ball ends up back with Dylan Stahl. Looks around to throw it. Bobby Boone ends up with it. Avila. Good steal by Fort Hays State. Washita working it up the far sideline. Evan Jordan trying to track down the ball. Fort Hays happy to kick it out of bounds for a Washita throw-in. Quick substitutions for both teams. Number 11 coming in, Hagen Sanchez. And 29 and 13, that's Jay Hoshin and Augustin Ayala for Fort Hays State. Ball stopped after a bit of a foul there on Washita, so it's going to be Fort Hays free kick from about halfway on their own side of the field. 7:30 left to play. Ball ends up in Washita's goal box. Fort Hays keeps control to the middle of the field. Washita trying to clear it out. Evan Jordan ends up with it. Once again, Washita is doing well on these fast breaks, trying to send it through. Stankovic trying to track it down. Brown comes from way outside his goal box to clear the ball. This one ends up back with Elgus. Now it's Fort Hays with the fast break. Washita gets it out, but not before a foul is called. About 10 yards outside of Washita's goal box. It's going to be a free kick for Fort Hays State. Jimenez getting ready to shoot the ball here. See if they can make something happen. Fort Hays lining up at the edge. Good stop by Jordan. Happy to get it out of their own goal box. Will be a throw-in. Jimenez taking this one. Correction, he'll pass it to Elgas, who will throw it in. Ends up out of bounds. It's going to be a goal kick. Arndt ended up on the ground there. They're going to stop the game. Check on him. Arndt gets up. Unhappy that he didn't get a foul there. Stahl's going to have the goal kick. 5:45 left to make something happen. On the first year of the new overtime rules here in NCAA 2 soccer, instead of adding extra time, they just call it a tie after 90 minutes. Ball ends up out the back of the goal, so it's going to end up as a goal kick for Fort Hays State. Ball ends up out of bounds after a couple of headers. Ouachita has a quick turnaround after this game. They play again Saturday at 1. We'd love to have you join our broadcast then. Stankovic ends up with the ball, sends it through. Trying to track it down and does so. Keeps it in play. Great effort by number 20. That's Brandon Avila. Ball ends up deflecting off of Fort Hays State. It's going to be a corner kick for Ouachita. Be number 6 taking the corner. That's Baden Pond. Ouachita with a chance to make something happen here. Line up at the edge of the goal box. They'll start moving. Here it goes. Little high off of the corner. Evan Jordan ends up with it. Try to make something happen before Fort Hays able to regain possession. Great slide. Looks like it was a little too much contact for the referee. It's going to end up back with Fort Hays State. Just over 3 minutes left to play. Fort Hays deep into Ouachita's territory. Try to make something happen. Elgas making sure it stays and off of the goal post there. Good effort. Crosses the ball. Arndt gets a hold of it. Oh, just to the left. Not able to capitalize there. Corner kick coming for Fort Hays State. Had a couple shots there, both close to being on target. This corner kick, beautifully put, ends up too far off of the head of, it looks like, number 13, Ayala from Fort Hays State. Dylan Stahl getting ready for his goal kick. It's going to send it deep. Back and forth. Bobby Boone ends up with it. Puts it up in the air. Christian Baker trying to get it out of there. Fort Hays keeping pressure on Ouachita. Lot of time. Good hands by Stahl. Once again, keeping that goal clean. Absolute missile by Fort Hays State, but Stahl able to get his hands on it. Maybe has a career as an NFL receiver after this. Number 13 shoots. Ends up deflecting off of Ouachita. It's another corner kick. A minute left to play. Fort Hays dedicated to try to get it into Ouachita's goal. Stahl playing extremely well, trying to stop them. Oh, just high off of the crossbar. It's got to be Stahl's best friend today. Couple off of that crossbar. 40 seconds left to play. Ouachita here very happy to get it out of their own territory. Ends up down the left side of the field. Eben Jordan gets fouled, so it's going to be a free kick. Now we'll see with 20 seconds left if Ouachita can make anything happen. Bobby Boone works it up to Sanchez. Sanchez works to the middle of the field. 10 seconds left to play.
7, 6.
Bobby Boone gets a hold of it.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And Ouachita is able to clear it. The game ends in a tie. Possibly all due to Dylan Stahl. Had 9 saves this game. An absolutely incredible job of keeping the goal clean. Fort Hays worked very hard as well, trying to score there. Both teams played incredibly well. We appreciate you joining our broadcast today. Final score 0-0. That'll have the Tigers advance to 1-10-3, and the Fort Hays State Tigers will advance to 7-3-4. We invite you to join us back with Ouachita men's soccer again this Saturday at 1 o'clock, and thanks for noon. I'm corrected. It will be at noon Saturday. We look forward to having you join our broadcast then. Thanks for tuning in.